All right, everybody. Hello and welcome back to some more Osumania 7 Key World Cup 2026 action. We got some more round of 32 matchups to go. Our final matchup of the Saturday block of matches, actually. We've got the United States versus the Netherlands, determining who moves on in the winners bracket and who will be knocked into losers come round of 16 weekend. I am one of your commentators, Toph Daddy, joined here by Epic Man 2. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going good. Pretty much had a relatively straightforward day of just simply commentating for various tournaments, including this one. And this is basically the final match that we have of this Saturday block of matches. So quite a bit of an anticipated one as well. Going to be the United States seed 9 going up against the Netherlands seed 24. Both these teams definitely have quite a bounty to both their names. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they're going to be playing it out for this round of 32 matchup alone here.
Yeah, both of these teams having quite a storied past with the Mania World Cups. I personally know both the United States and the Netherlands, particularly for their 4-key endeavors, but certainly no slouches to the 7-key scene either. And the number 9 versus number 24 seems like a pretty big seed difference, but we've already seen two seed upsets this weekend, or at least two very close to seed upsets. One of them was an upset. One of the first matches of the weekend, Ireland versus Australia, which ended up going in favor of Ireland and making one of the biggest upsets I've ever seen in round of 32. And then Venezuela versus Colombia. Colombia managing to take Venezuela to a tiebreaker and nearly knocking off one of the higher seeds in this tournament. So that seed disparity not necessarily going to mean anything here, especially if we can see the Netherlands performing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you pretty much hit it on the nail with that type of descriptor where pretty much a lot of teams have been playing at more than just their A game at this point. And especially for you as someone that has been historically known for being one of the most formidable players on the side of the United States in some of the earlier World Cups, I definitely would believe, or at least I would definitely be led to believe that you would have a lot of insight as to how the United States kind of works their way around various situations in the tournament in general, especially going up against the Netherlands, where at this point, you can never really judge a book by its cover going into the round of 32 anymore within this tournament because of how good even the lower seeded teams are in question.
Yeah, I think especially this year, it's the seeds are closer than usual. I think that's been kind of true over the last few years as things have developed. Teams have gotten better, players have gotten better, and especially when it comes to things like round of 32, the seed disparities mean a lot less until you took the top 3 or 4 seeds in the tournament. So I would not be surprised to see a team like the Netherlands really put up a fight against the United States despite the seed disparity that they have. If we look at qualifiers, the United States is quite a bit, does have the advantage on pretty much anything, but the Netherlands, an extremely well-rounded team, and when you're talking about map pools as easy as round 32, a lot can happen, and these teams can put a lot of emphasis onto getting good accuracy and holding consistency, which I think is going to be really important in this matchup.
Absolutely. Like, you just basically have a lot of options that you really need to try and see whether you can at least sharpshoot your way into ensuring they work out well for you in question. Or otherwise, if not that, then basically the ban system in this tournament as well can be really beneficial for a lot of teams as well when it comes to at least trying to play it more strategically. For example, within certain picks such as the EX maps, for example, if you need to take out one of them against a more physical team.
Yeah, absolutely. I could definitely see that being a case for the Netherlands here, with the United States having quite a big physical capability. We do see Hybrid 2 getting protected by the Netherlands. So looks like we might be seeing kind of a long note versus Rice type area where Netherlands is going to want to stick with the hybrids more. The less volatile, or sorry, Netherlands going to be picking the more volatile picks in the hybrids and the long notes, whereas I would expect the United States to want to go with the less volatile picks as the higher seed in the Rice selections, and potentially looking at that EX pool as a potential area of interest. Rice 4 does get protected by the United States. That's not Netherlands ban yet. It is the United States ban at this point. So I think that's just a mistake, but we'll be waiting for the United States to put their ban out before the Netherlands.
Yeah, it should be fine. I mean, to be fair, just looking at these protects alone, it definitely looks really straightforward. Just the fact that I believe the Netherlands is basically well balanced to a point where they basically feel like they can try and challenge the United States on basically anything. I definitely feel like the Netherlands does kind of back this up with the fact that in the qualifiers, Freak did get pretty close to Logan's score on the likes of Echoes by Maxis, which is definitely nothing to scoff at. The fact that it's only about maybe 30 seeds apart, perhaps, is definitely something to be wary of for the side of the United States. Even if it does come down to raw team consistency alone, maybe the Netherlands has a little something up their sleeve that they're just awaiting to throw onto the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting coming out from the bans. EX2, I think that's a fair ban coming out from the Netherlands, though I would have almost expected EX1 to have been banned if it was coming from the Netherlands, if they were trying to get rid of any of those EX picks. United States going with an LN1 ban. So now we're in a situation where LN2 is open, which has been. I talked about this with Peninsula in the previous matchup that we commentated. That was the first time LN2 was ever kept open, and now we have 2 matches in a row where it's being kept open. So interesting to see that being the case. United States a little bit less comfortable on that LN1, opting to keep the more coordination-heavy one open, and Netherlands with the first pick opting into Sayonara, which that's going to be Rice 3. And that's an interesting selection in this case, given that the Netherlands decided to protect a hybrid and saw the United States actually ban a long note pick. It's very interesting to see them want to opt into a Rice pick to start off the match.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting pick to start the match as well, and to set the bold impression that the Netherlands is likely going to be looking for. I think in general the Netherlands wants to try and play it safe for perhaps the first pick before they can at least kind of progress with their decisions later in the match to ensure that they're kind of comfortable understanding what the United States is basically made of. Especially the fact that the United States has always kind of been a profile within tournaments within Oceania as well. So obviously with the fact this is a championship country that has placed super high in so many 7-key World Cups, having gotten 4th place in 2019, 5th, 6th in 2023, and basically just about getting around the top 8 in the past 12 years or so.
Yeah, it's definitely a bold decision. I do think that there's something odd when I think about this selection from the Netherlands. One, that makes me think that it's more about comfort than anything at this point, which is maybe not. It's there's 2 parts of it. One, you should pick something that you're comfortable with as your first pick. 2, if it's comfortable for you and you know that the United States is also strong on this kind of thing, you would figure that they're comfortable with it as well. So it kind of adds a risk factor to this selection. But the other side of this is that if I was in the Netherlands' shoes, I'd almost be looking for a Rice, and I wanted to pick Rice, I should say. I would almost be looking to pick a Rice pick that I don't think is going to be consistent, or that I think is more difficult for the United States to be 100% consistent on all the time, which I don't think that's this selection. If I was in those shoes, I would be going Rice 5. Just because I think the accuracy is more difficult to keep up with, and I think combos can be a lot more difficult to maintain all the time on something like Rice 5 versus this one, where just less dense but fast chord stream can be really easy to get good accuracy, which I think the United States is just very strong at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially understanding Rise 5 in principle, it is a pick that allows for a lot of volatile passing within how the song itself is expressed, especially with a lot of the one-handed staircases that you have to at least circulate between your ring and your index fingers on one hand. So, starting off this map, we see a bit of a rough start from Bosbro to start off with, giving him early advantage to the Neverlands.
Oh yeah, that's a rough
Oh.
start. I don't know what's happening.
Oh boy. Here we go again. Called for an abort? Maybe?
Maybe. I don't know what's happening.
Universe.
I would imagine this gets aborted. I can't tell what's going on.
Yeah. The map is also really short as well, so if anything, it's gonna have to be aborted really soon before anything happens, because there's no way this is happening. Like, at all. This isn't normal.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think this is going to get aborted, and we'll get a reset on this map in particular. We just need to wait for the ref to catch up to it.
Yeah, but now it's like past the 30-second mark of the song. We're going into the final third. This is a really short map, but Bosbro continues playing anyways. I think perhaps that might have been some sort of keyboard disconnect that would have really blundered their score and basically just made them miss quite a good portion of the map already. This one is nigh unrecoverable for the United States, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, if we're not getting an abort, this is definitely going in the way of Netherlands.
Yeah. Oh, that is unfortunate. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I feel like if it was a keyboard issue, then hopefully I feel like Bosbro should try and investigate as to what exactly was going on behind the scenes, because of the fact that if it is a keyboard issue, they're gonna have to at least try something. Yeah, it was their PC tweaking out. Yeah.
Yeah, that was unusual, to say the least.
Yeah. I swear, like, out of all the other times that I've seen matches in this tournament so far, I haven't even seen this happen. So the fact that that it actually ended up cursing the United States in question is, oh, that's actually genuinely concerning. I'm not sure whether it is possible to redo the map as well, unless I haven't really skimmed through the rules of this tournament well enough to understand how exactly replays and score submissions can work.
Well, the normal case is that would have been aborted at the beginning anyways. I don't know why it wasn't. I don't... It's weird now that it's actually finished through, but I would imagine that it should be a redone map. But I guess that comes up to the decision of the tournament. And okay, yeah. I just got word from the host that it should be replayed. That should be replayed, and I think it will be.
Right. Okay. Okay, that's fine then. All right.
Which is completely normal. That's the normal thing that would have happened. It's just it didn't get a. This is a really short map, so it's not terribly surprising if the abort wasn't going to happen in time. But that is going to get redone.
Yeah, thankfully, because like I would feel really bad for Bosbro having to go out just like that and not being able to show anything else of this map alone. So unfortunately for the side of the Neverlands, but at the same time, we gotta play it fair. There's no way we can at least skim through certain points without having to at least put in the effort first thing.
Yeah, it's just a small misplay, I guess, from the side of like whoever it is would abort that in that case. That just gets replayed, no harm, no foul. Just gotta get back to it.
So yeah, once again, awaiting everyone to ready up in their stations. It's gonna be Nameless Fanatic and Bosbro facing the likes of Tyronic and Monster. For real this time. No buts, no doubts. This is the real source of Rice Free that we should have gone about 5 minutes ago. Here we go.
And here we go. Try number 2 here. Bosbro definitely not having the same issues they were at the start of the previous attempt. So everything's looking much better this time. This is the real run through, and accuracy advantage actually favoring the Netherlands coming out of the gate. This is, of course, their own pick, so you would expect them to be quite comfortable on it. But the United States showing a little bit of weakness, though, taking the lead now that we've gotten to the 500 combo about a quarter of the way through, just barely holding on to an accuracy lead at the moment.
Oh, and there's a miss from Tyronix. The sophomore try from the United States to at least show what they can at least do within a pick like this is actually being showcased on a pretty well done fashion, as Tyronix is the first to take a drop. There is probably gonna be some nerves from the side of the Netherlands having to play this for the second time in a row, and I believe in the first try they would have done it with good effort as well, probably unbeknownst to the fact that there was the issue with Bosbro's computer tweaking during the match. So at the same time, the United States doesn't really have the safest lead per se. Only about 5,000 points remain in their favor going into the final third, and there's just still a lot of room for error going into a lot of these bracket patterns.
Yes, denser bracket patterns coming up. We're into the last quarter of the map. Like you said, not a super comfortable lead, but one miss is enough to make sure that they have a little bit of room, especially with a slight, actually not even an accuracy lead. This would be very, very close. Without that miss from Tyronix, so that will end up being quite an unfortunate situation for the Netherlands on that pick. But a double full combo will be enough for the United States to secure an early breakpoint.
Yeah, and a really bold one to take as well. This is going to be the first of many breakpoints that we've seen. This was actually really interesting of a pick in general because of the fact that I feel like if not for the miss from Tyronix that had been unfortunately slipped out of the sewers, for example, this could have definitely been so much closer than it ended up turning out to be. So United States next in line to pick, they are basically bound to pick whatever they want. I'd imagine they probably want to go for something that isn't within the rice category because they know that the Netherlands can actually technically sharpshoot within that category, but they go for Rice 4.
They're actually going to, they go for Rice 4 their Protect, so getting their Protect out of the way very early. This isn't... Okay. This is going to sound weird, because I already said that I didn't really like the Rice 3 pick from the Netherlands in the first place, and the United States did win that Rice 3 pick. But that was really close, and would have been even closer if it wasn't for the miss from Tyronix on that run.
With me.
And this is an even more accuracy-focused map, which on Rice 3, the Netherlands seem to have a slight advantage on.
Yeah, it's really just about the role skill maps in tournaments such as these that basically just spell out that the competition is going to be basically just trying to bid your highest price for at least trying to sneak out a point, which definitely the Netherlands wants to at least try and win something back because they did fall under the assumption that they won Rice 3 originally, so they want to at least try and get that point back because of the unfortunate circumstance, for example. So moving on from this, it's going to be Vice that gets the pick, and honestly a bit of a risky one as well. Like I mentioned, I feel like the Ellens and Hybrids would have been a better pick personally, just to try and see whether you can at least try and make one of the people in the Netherlands kind of choke on a pattern that they're not comfortable with, perhaps within the Ellen category. But keeping it to Rice for the time being may or may not go well for the United States, even with how close the previous map was in question.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. We do actually see... we do see a swap out from the United States. Bosbro being swapped out for Logan, but otherwise the other 3 players in the lobby staying the exact same. I imagine Logan going to be pretty much the accuracy monster on the side of the United States when it comes to these kinds of jack picks, so not surprising to see them coming back in. And Tyronix, a monster, having done a pretty good job on that Rice 3, putting it to the United States to really perform to take that point, and I imagine they're going to do the same thing here. And again, they had a slight accuracy advantage on that Rice 3 pick, so looking at this jack pick, I could see them really putting a fight towards it on this.
Absolutely. I mean, especially the fact that both teams basically have players that can really counteract with each other. Tyronix, they're going to try and fight against Elected Logan. Monster is going to be the first to drop, however, not going to be traded out by anyone for the time being. Not Nameless Fanatic, not Logan, nobody. 5,000 points to the advantage of the United States for the time being, going into the first course where you basically just have a lot of anchors you got to wriggle your way through.
Yeah, luckily for the Netherlands, Monster's miss was well before the 400 combo, so it's not going to be as impactful to the score as if it was after that 400 combo was reached. That still doesn't mean a 7,000 point lead, but Nameless Fanatic's going to find a break, and that's after 400 combo, and that's going to be more difficult for the United States to recover from, even with the accuracy that they have. It looks like the accuracies are actually extremely close together. Logan outclassing the rest of the lobby, but Tyronix not too far behind, and Monster out-acking Nameless Fanatic, both of those two with the one miss, and Netherlands going to take a small lead, if not infinitesimal at the moment, just so small of a lead, but it's enough to take the point if they're able to hold on.
Oh, another miss comes out from Logan. That is basically going to substantially increase that score on the side of the Netherlands for the time being. 8,000 points is the margin now that has to come out from a miss from the side of the Netherlands to bring it back to the United States. Going into the final 30 seconds of the map, there is not really much else you can do besides from at least try your best to act each of the patterns. And we have seen from Tyronix, the only FC remaining in the lobby so far has not stood getting flinched by any of the patterns.
Goodness.
Another combo reset from the side of the United States. It's basically over at this point. What score is Tyronix going to be getting? It's a 998k. What? Yo.
I mean, I did say that this was not my favorite pick to come out of the United States, especially after that Rice 3, and they just were not able to hold combo. The Netherlands going to take a break point right back and bring it even Stevens here. 2 picks in. A best of 7 now, as 2 of the Rice picks are gone, and the Netherlands has the pick of the litter.
Absolutely. It's basically as if Netherlands saw that the United States ran away with Rice 3, so they tried to sprint away with the likes of Rice 4, for example, which definitely worked out in their favor. It's 1-0 now, and with that breakpoint alone, that is 2 breakpoints in a row. Netherlands is going to look to try and break this chain of breakpoints before it gets any worse. I definitely would assume they want to stick to the Rice category. Maybe sharpshoot for something like Rice 2 or Rice 1, for example, just to keep it within simple grounds, for example, and maybe, just maybe, don't go too risky until the very end.
There is an interesting dynamic here between these two teams where it looked like the United States was going to be focusing on the Rice side and Netherlands was mostly going to be sticking with the hybrids and one notes. But with how these first 2 picks have gone, I would expect kind of the reverse to start happening. I know the Netherlands already picked Rice 3, but I expect them to stick with that strategy and keep going with the Rice. Like Rice 2, I think would be a great pick here. And the United States might actually want to start digging into like the hybrids and probably even the EX pool, if I was being completely honest.
Yeah, especially the United States, it would pretty much be a no-brainer for them to go into something within the EX pool. Maybe not EX3 this early, but perhaps something like EX1, just because they are basically one of the few teams that have the bigger physicality advantage in general. So if you like try to use perhaps one of the more pseudo late game, more mid game-ish picks that you have in the map pool, that could definitely benefit the United States if all goes well in their favor. But they're going to have to pick rather carefully, so Neverland's going to be picking another map. It is Rice 1, Wonderful Paradise, as I mentioned.
That makes total sense. Actually, that makes more sense than what I was suggesting. I said Rice 2, but this makes a lot more sense because this is branded as the quote-unquote speed pick, but it plays very similarly to a faster court strength chart in the same way that Rice 3 is. Rice 3 is a little denser. Yeah. This one's a little faster. They kind of play in the same pit.
Yeah, absolutely. They are basically picks in this map pool alone that really just give handshake to each other, really masculine one as well, to really kind of showcase that they are kind of almost one in the same. This one is a lot lighter in comparison to that of Rice Free Sayonara, for example. Albeit, this is a pick that does kind of pack a punch still with its patterning and just its raw usage of double staircases and rolls in general. So definitely something interesting that Netherlands is looking to pull out of the bag for this round of the picks that we've got to play through. And I'm interested to see how everyone's going to be performing on this. The teams are not going to really change in way too much, but we do see Bosbro coming back in for the United States, and also a full team swap out from the Netherlands. Freak and no TJJ come into the fray.
Yeah, so new members coming in for the Netherlands there. Actually, first time actually, that's a double swap there from the Netherlands. Freak and Noah TJJ both coming in. Bosbro swapping out for Nameless Fnatic there. So we see a new combination, at least, for the United States, though both of these players have seen the light in the World Cup so far and in this round. So Netherlands, new squad going up against the United States, already having seen a couple, but both teams having gotten a break point with a little bit of confidence, maybe even more confidence under the Netherlands' belt with their accuracy advantage that has shown quite heavily so far in the first two picks.
Yeah, basically United States unlocking a hidden route within their team layouts, and it does look like it makes a little more sense as well. Logan is definitely one of those players that you really want if you're assaulting a team for the United States in question, because you're going to need that physicality advantage. Ballsbro the first to choke, and Logan
oh my goodness,
chokes as well. A double miss from the United States to start the match off.
Yeah, the United States is not having a great time holding combo. Double full combo so far for the Netherlands. A third of the way through, only at 600 combo, but that is enough to establish nearly 20,000 points of advantage for the Netherlands. But Freak is going to trade one of those misses back. That'll allow the United States to start bringing themselves back into it. And Noah TJJ going to find a break as well, and both those after 400 combo are going to be more impactful than the United States misses, and that lead is shrinking and going over to the red side. The United States going to start building up a small bit of lead as the two Netherlands players are trying to get back up to that combo bonus count. Bosbro's going to trade one back, though. And that's going to be another miss, so that lead is well in favor of the United States. This time, accuracy lead is way in favor of the United States with that exceptional accuracy coming out of Logan. Nearly 99.8, even with the miss. And Bosbro, as they build up to 400 combo, that lead's going to shrink, but it looks like it's going to stay on the side of the United States as we get into this ending section. And Freak is going to trade it back, and now the United States just needs to hold on, and they should be able to take another break point.
Yeah, just a few more seconds for the United States to try and take things back. Bosbro chokes once again. Logan is the one at the forefront of the focuses with 1,300 combo, and Noah TJJ misses once again. A double combo reset from the side of the Netherlands once again. It is a tremendous unexpected turn of events. 31,000 points into the favor of the United States going into this map. Really unfortunate outcome for the Netherlands as well, because they had it all together for a good portion of the map. It was just until the fatigue got in, the nerves got into the likes of Freak going into this map.
Yeah,
oh, goodness me.
Tough break for the Netherlands. Looked like they were going to be able to pull something out. They had a 20,000 point lead at one point, but just couldn't hold it together and keep the combos going. On top of the accuracy, and like looking at the accuracies, no full combos across the board, but Logan only getting 200s, really pulling it together for the United States and establishing that lead, getting them another break point. 3 break points now in a row. The United States now the ones on their foot trying to break the cycle and try to establish any kind of lead in this match here.
Exactly. If you are in the position of the United States, you're pretty much in a good position to pick whatever you need. Ellen Free is the map that gets the pick. Gonna be Happy Girl, the more, dare I say, kind of density or technical oriented map per se.
Definitely the most density focused long note pick.
Yeah,
we actually saw two of the long note picks in this pool out of 4 getting banned out, and one of them was the release oriented, and the other one was the more technical and most difficult long no pick of pools. So we've got our coordination and density available. The United States decides to opt for the density LN pick, which I think for their play style makes sense. We talked about them being more comfortable on the right side of things, and if you're not as comfortable with long notes, this is the type of long note pick that you would want to go for. It's the one that you're going to be the most comfortable with, at least, because it doesn't focus so much on the coordination release aspect. Just make sure that you can read through it and you have the proper fundamentals for it, which I think most Rice players will.
Yeah, exactly. This is definitely a map that I feel most teams should try and strategize around, because this can definitely act and serve as a really crucial pick for any team, really, regardless of the scenario. Especially with the fact that this is the final map before the second ban wave as introduced in this tournament. This is going to be a map that's going to have to at least discern what exactly is going to happen. The Netherlands is trying to look to see whether they can break it over point, but the United States is looking to break it. So we just need to see how exactly they're going to be doing, because of the fact that the Netherlands by default is also just as well balanced and well rounded as the United States are. So the United States trying to push their luck and try and dwell into that long no category is definitely a smart move to make. Going to be trying to see whether they can at least showcase their diverse prowess, or is the Netherlands going to respond, is pretty much the other question, really.
Yeah, definitely. This is such an interesting situation to be in, because I mentioned, like, both of these teams are extremely well-rounded, especially, like, surrounding their specific seed number. So, like, the United States stayed pretty close to that number 9 seed on every single pick that was in the qualifiers, and the Netherlands did the same thing with everything in the qualifiers just around the number 24 seed. But they've already been able to take a point, and that was a break point after watching the United States kind of have trouble holding combo. So if the United States doesn't feel super comfortable holding combo on LNs, it's possible that we see the Netherlands start to take an advantage out of this if they're able to hold combo like they were on that Rice 4 pick.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely one of those situations where if you are in the state of the United States in general, you do not want to give up a weak spot to the likings of the Netherlands in general, because especially within this tournament being one of the biggest iterations of the 7-key World Cup in general, there has been a lot of lower seeded teams that managed to successfully exploit a lot of the higher the teams that are part of the big leagues. United States being one of them as well, going off that Rice 4 pick in general. So the fact that we have a map like this where you just have to control a lot of rather mediocre tempo long nose that you need to like hit, it's just definitely a lot difficult and more taxing to play for in general, as we see from that miss from Nameless Fnatic.
Yeah, we do see the miss from Nameless Fnatic come out. That was after 400 combos, so it's not going to be very helpful to the United States. The second miss does come out, but important to note, the accuracy advantage for the United States quite strong, and that accuracy advantage so far enough to hold off the Netherlands from taking it over, despite them holding on to a double full combo. We saw early on in the map, Freak actually dropping below the S range for a little bit on some of those earlier release patterns. And that, despite that, Freak is still able to get above 99%, but even despite that, Logan's 99.7 and Fnatic's 99.4 are both out-accuracying the Netherlands players, and Noah actually going to find a break and trade one of them back, only to give the United States a much stronger lead halfway through this map.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the biggest things to try and consider within a map like this is that you really need to try and fight with team consistency in general, because even... Oh my god, there's a double miss from the side of the Netherlands. Oh, goodness me. And another one from Freak. Oh,
yeah,
god.
It looked like a pretty good... It looked real close for the Netherlands at first, but their consistency not able to keep up with this density selection on the long note side. The combo is just too strong for the United States on top of the accuracy. Way too much for them to handle right now. And now the United States with the strongest lead they've had so far. And I think they'll be happy to stay away from the Rice pool for the rest of this match if they can.
Absolutely. I mean, especially with winning off a pick like this, and you basically just realize or come to the realization that this map was won by a half the amount of score in general, there's no wrong in just simply going to stick with picks such as these in question, as long as you don't simply run out of them. Because especially then, we do have the second ban wave coming right after this pick. The final roll in the middle of the playfield comes down, and that is 38,000 points in the advantage of the United States. 3-1 in their favor for the time being. The Netherlands definitely looked a lot more consistent during the earlier half of the map until we just saw a lot of those chokes coming out from Freak, not looking to be relatively overwhelmed just from the sheer control that this map requires.
Yeah, absolutely. But that definitely looks more favorable. At least if I'm in the United States shoes, that's a sigh of relief to see something that I can feel confident in going into. If I'm them, I'm looking at, the Hybrid 3 or like the EX3 as potential selections later on if they feel like they can take advantage of something that Netherlands showed there. On the other hand, Netherlands on their selection here, and they do have 2 Rice picks still available. I mentioned Rice 2 as a potential selection, though we'll have to get through the second ban phase. As I say, United States potentially looking at EX3 as a maybe pick. It does get banned by the Netherlands. The United States going to give a second ban as well. I would probably ban Rice 2 here if I was them. But I don't know how they're feeling about all that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Rise 2 is a very plausible ban to at least go for. I was honestly expecting Netherlands to try and ban out something like Ellen 2, just judging by that Ellen free performance in general, because of the fact that as much as there is still some coordination elements that are kind of tricky and intricate within the hybrid category, there is still some relative Rise difficulty within those categories regardless of which. So, interesting one.
That is interesting. I guess it doesn't. I guess it's not that surprising after seeing them ban LN1. It's just a position where you see them win so convincingly on LN3, and then they just ban the other LN pick. It's a little confusing, but I guess they just want to stick with like their own comfort rather than trying to pick out things that the Netherlands isn't necessarily good at, so they'd probably feel more comfortable playing something like Rice 2 than they would LN2.
Yeah, absolutely. That is some really fair analogy there, Toph. And so, yeah, like, generally, I think when it comes to picks like these, I think generally you want maps that can at least be comfortable to you, but even then, like, one of the centric themes within tournaments in general, or one of the biggest tropes overall, is that you're going to have to go through a lot of risks to be able to make it big within a match itself. So, especially the United States being literally one of the countries to play in any World Cup, regardless of any mode, just a boundary-breaking country overall that literally represented by the ball legal in general. There's just a lot of picks that you can really go for as this team in general. So I think if not the Rice picks, then definitely the hybrid picks are all open for grabs as well. So I wouldn't be particularly surprised or shocked if they were to pick out one of the hybrids at least soon enough, because the Rice picks are slowly running out. All the Ellen maps are gone. There's only really free Rice maps and then free hybrids as well that basically just open up for risks to be taken throughout the match.
Yeah. So you have to really think about the structure of the match that's remaining. So worst case scenario for the United States, they get 2 of their own picks left. I imagine that they're not going to be sticking their noses in the Rice pool any longer, and there's no more longer picks left. I imagine that whatever that comes out after whatever the Netherlands decides to go with, I think they're going to be choosing a hybrid. And if I'm in their shoes, I'm either going hybrid 3 or hybrid 1. The Netherlands, on the other hand, also has 2 picks left, and they have a couple of Rice picks that they can go with, though I would avoid EX1, because I feel like that's the Rice pick that the United States has the most advantage on.
Yeah, it's just because of the sheer physicality that Abysmal Cosmos requires in general. I mean, if you are at least familiar with most Taba 2 maps in general, you basically know it's going down. Taba 2 is an extremely technical mapper based on the content that I've seen them push out. So definitely the fact that you just have maps like these in the pool, for example, is definitely something that I feel the Netherlands would want to shadow ban technically as a technique here. So the United States going to be wanting to look out for the hybrid. I'd imagine the United States would want to set their sights out for the hybrids, whereas the Netherlands, I would honestly not be surprised if we actually go Rice 2 or Rice 5. But then again, maybe Rice 2 would be better, and that does get the pick in the end. Yeah. Bloody Mary it is.
I thought Rice 2 was going to be coming out even earlier in this matchup, so I'm not surprised to see it come out here. But Netherlands basically need to win this, otherwise the United States is going to be on match point on their own pick. So a big potential turning point for this match, aside from already seeing that break point come out from the United States on Rice 1. So
very
big
late
moment here. Also another really short map, so it's another situation where singular misses can cause some pretty big issues with score gaps. There's a lot more notes in this than the other Rice picks, though, to be completely fair. So it kind of strikes that balance between requiring strong accuracy with the consistency, but also punishing the players pretty hard if they do find misses.
Yeah, exactly. I think the general connotation between each of the Rice maps in general is that they're really punishable in general over the fact that it's basically a competition where you need to try and at least FC the maps. That's basically the bare minimum expectation that is basically applied to each of the Rice maps in general, which definitely puts the pressure on a lot of lower seeded teams, for example, Netherlands included, because of the fact that there's a lot of countries out there that don't really have such a developed scene for 7-key World Cup as opposed to the United States, for example. So definitely makes a little more sense that Netherlands wants to try and at least get this pick out of the way. This is a really raw map in the sense that this is literally only 2 minutes and 21 seconds long, 141 BPM, dense chord streams and brackets. It's really control heavy. Basically, the minute your fingers dance, you cannot slip up at all. It's basically just as hard as doing a ballerina test, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of balance, when it gets, even in round of 32, that kind of balance is tough to strike. And I think that gets even more pronounced when you're talking about pure accuracy tests like this, like Rice 2 does, where I've always likened these dense chord stream picks to chord jack picks in 4-key, where in 4-key, chord jacks is probably the simplest map type to be good at, where you're either really good at it and can get like 99.97% on it consistently, or it's at a speed, like there's a BPM counter where at a certain BPM, all of a sudden your accuracy goes out the window and you start missing and getting like really funny accuracy scores with 10 misses. And I think that feels like how chord stream works in 7-key in a way where if it passes a certain point of BPM intensity, all of a sudden it gets way more difficult. But this is the level where that's not quite the case for almost any of the players in this tournament, so it becomes a pure accuracy tester.
Yeah, I think in general it's just frequent or common expectedly that most picks within the Rice category would definitely become more of consistency tests per se. I mean, especially with your analogy on the chord jack-esque picks within 4-key, just being a lot more on the straightforward side, I could definitely vouch for that as a 4-key mapper myself, and I'm pretty sure you would as well in general. So yeah, 3,000 points so far in the advantage of the United States for the time being. Going into the back of the chart, free. That is a
I don't know if that's
free.
real. I think that's client.
Yeah. Yeah. I was about to say, like, I just saw it, like, happen a nanosecond just before the Bancho blunder.
Also, I don't mean to, like, talk about it, because I don't want to curse this person or anything, but Logan's accuracy so far is a little bit crazy. And Tyronix not having the best connection time. And I hope that's not a real disconnect, because that would be really unfortunate since it's been over a minute since we've started this map, and that would not be an abort or a reset.
Yeah, no, the red bar is only bleeding further on the scene of the United States, so it's starting to become more disturbing to look at the more that Tyronix is just trapped in ice. Waiting to be fooled right here.
Yeah, and we're just about to get to it. Okay. I do want to note the MP link is updating, and Tyronix definitely didn't disconnect, so that's at least a good thing. We do see Freak finding a miss, and also the flank continuing to have issues, but...
Bro. Oh my god,
oh my
no way.
Alright, we gotta stop these people from leaving lobby so quickly. Because that's what happened to Freak there, is that he left lobby too early after the finish of the map. One way or another, the United States is going to win this point, and it would not have mattered whether we can see the score or not. Tyronix and Freak were both able to submit their scores, and the United States won that quite handily, getting that break point and bringing it to match point.
Yeah, it's just really hard to compete with the likes of Logan on a map like this, where you literally have to fight someone that can get 59 perfects on this map. Like, May, how are you meant to manage with that? Oh my god. Alright, so... that's pretty much all there is to the roll skill maps in the rice field. Now, all that's left is Amusing Colorful Pudding, and that's a map that I believe the Netherlands would want to save for slightly later.
Yeah, but one way or another, the United States is going to get their pick of the litter, and they're going to go with EX1, sticking with the rice pool. And I'm not too surprised to see this, especially after gaining back their confidence on a bunch of the other rice picks that have been picked so far.
Yeah, exactly. EX1 getting the pick. I definitely should have seen the United States bring this out. There was not a better time for them to bring this out and just try and see whether they can prove that physicality is their strongest suit against the likes of the Netherlands, which are going to have to try and stand up to the challenge. Tyronix, I definitely would imagine, would try and at least challenge that of Potato and Nameless Fnatic. Potato gonna be making their first appearance in this match as well. Monster comes back in as well, looking to try and set another monstrous score like we've seen on Rise 4 earlier in the match itself. So getting some of the Rise All-Stars and just generally physical players inside of Netherlands is definitely a good call to make here.
Yeah, I mean, they got to put everything they can out there, otherwise they're going to be knocked out of losers. They don't have any room for error anymore.
They pretty much have nothing else to lose, really. There's only 1 point left for the United States to win. And now the Netherlands is just pressured to try and at least force a tiebreaker or at least go into the losers bracket, which they do not want to surrender here. They've already been doing really well throughout a lot of the maps. Even with a few blunders here and there, the maps were still relatively competitive in general, even with a lot of the mishaps that came from a bunch of the players throughout the match itself. There's a lot of potential that the Netherlands has against the United States here.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to note as well, is there's opportunities for the United States to miss on this. And from when I played through this map, I actually performed better on this than a couple of the other rice picks in the pool. I'm not that good at 7 key, but that can mean something where the patterns in this are relatively comfortable. Especially the first 3 quarters of this, I think the patterns in this are super comfortable to get good accuracy on. And if the Netherlands can hold combo and get good accuracy through that, they can potentially put a lot of pressure on the United States.
Yeah, and that's going to be a really good point to really just try and sink into the United States here from the Netherlands in general, because they're looking to try and continue what they have been showing throughout this match alone, where they need to prove that they are at least capable of playing these picks as well as the United States are. Few streams are throwing out here and there, some bursts as well on false snaps, namely 1/8 and 1/6. But the scoreline is not even that far. Nameless Fnatic the first to drop as the scoreline goes back into the favor of the Netherlands.
Yeah, that miss is going to do a lot of legwork there. Accuracies look pretty even across the board. It looks like maybe Netherlands has a slight advantage, but with that miss, that's going to give the United States the accuracy advantage and tie up the combos together, especially with Nameless Fnatic hitting the 400. Tyronix still trying to catch up. It's going to be about a 3,000 point lead in the favor of the United States halfway through this map with one full combo apiece.
Yeah, approaching the millions of the categories here. They're basically approaching the Cosmos in the Abyss here. But the Netherlands is still yet to try and prove that they cannot go out on a pick as simple as this. The map does pick up on its intensity with a BPM change, and it just overall becomes a lot more physical and technical. As much as it is comfortable, maybe that is potentially a fault from the side of the map poolers. But even then, Tyronix, the next one to find the drop, it is going to really sink the hot mindset that the Netherlands is probably going to be going under. Just imagine being in the situation where you're overwhelmed. Potato, the next one to respond on that note as well.
Yeah, not over yet. We do see that miss from Potato. Tyronix building up to 400 combo, gonna start shrinking that lead from the United States. Still close enough that a couple more mistakes from the United States could definitely give it over to the Netherlands, but we see a speed increase here, and this is where that density starts to pick up really heavily. And this is definitely the hardest part of the map, where you'd expect some misses to come out. But all four players showing up and doing what they need to, and it looks like the United States gonna survive through this ending section. And unfortunately for the Netherlands, that is going to be it. The United States is going to be able to complete this matchup and win it 5-1 to keep themselves alive in the winner's bracket.
Yeah, all it took was one speed core section to be able to make it for the United States. They did a tremendous job going for a map like this that had quite the twists and turns that the United States couldn't have asked more from. So that alone is just going to allow the United States to punch their ticket all the way into the round of 16 to continue their streak and look to see whether they can fight even more competitive teams as time goes on. They're going to be facing Ireland in the round of 16, as the Netherlands is going to be knocked down into the losers bracket to face the likes of Australia. God, yeah, that's already a nightmare to imagine.
That is tough.
Oh my God.
What I mentioned earlier, that we had a few upsets. That's the upset we were talking about. Ireland versus Australia. United States facing the 25th seeded Ireland, and Netherlands unfortunately going down to the losers bracket to face the number 8 seeded Australia. So, you know, just it's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But I expect the Netherlands to put up a really good fight in that matchup no matter what. They put it to the United States very well today here. The United States is getting the better of them, and the United States going to face Ireland, trying to keep their winner's bracket hopes alive against Ireland, and I'm really excited to see how that goes in round of 16.
Absolutely. The round of 16 is honestly looking to be a real bloodshed if I've ever seen one, and honestly, too, if you put it in a perfect way, honestly, just the fact that there's a lot of teams waiting to show their potential, and there's just so much more sauce that's yet to be applied to your dinner tonight, which I believe I'm going to be having soon by. This is the last match of the Saturday block of matches. We will be back tomorrow at about 10 UTC. I would make a particular comment stating about some particular flags you can buy for your profile, but unfortunately, I don't think they are up just yet. Hopefully, they'll be up by the next round weekend, if anything.
Yeah, it does not look like those banners are available, but we'll make sure to let you all know when we are able to provide them for you in the OSU store. You know that I'm always one to shill, so I will never betray you when it comes to that. But keep your eyes peeled. We'll announce them when they are available. But in the meantime, you'll just have to go ahead and wait and make sure that you set your alarms for 10 UTC, 13 hours from now. And get ready for our Sunday block of matches, starting with an intense one, the Philippines versus Singapore. It's going to be a moment you don't want to miss. I'm excited for it. Epic Man 2 is excited for it. So we hope to see you guys there. We'll be heading off, so we'll see you guys then.
This has been Epic Man 2 and Toph Daddy, and we will catch you all in the next episode. See you in 13 hours. Bye-bye.